telegraph a potential Maokai early pick if they wanted to go that direction, but definitely something a little bit more consistency-based.
Yeah, maybe if they determine it's a Galio game for Xiaohu, perhaps. We'll see what the move is. It's going to be the first time we're seeing Weibo on the blue side to kick things off. So that Lily ban was seconded. See what BLG is going to aim their bans at. Yeah, obviously, you know, that Nico, as you mentioned, very consistent ban. Airhaw's been pretty good on it, too. It looks like they're going to send some bans over at the mid lane and try to keep Xiaohu down.
Yeah, I mean, they took him out of his comfort zone last game. No reason to change it up this game. You know, you put a lot of attention and pressure into him, but the Azir is gone now. Orianna, Victor, they're off the board. There's that Vi ban that we were referencing. Again, it just makes sense to not allow BLG to have that comfort pick, and it will be the Nefiri ban coming out. I would be shocked if this is not a jungle first pick. It just feels like the pool has been pinched way too much to prioritize anything else here. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yone is available. And that's going to be the lock.
That makes a lot of sense. And now BLG, what do? Like, do you just give them Sejuani and then another melee in the top lane and just be like, all right, well, we're going to go up against the Thanos comp and hope to beat it. We'll see what the move is going to be. A potential split push threat to try to outdo the Yone in a side lane. The Yorick has been a champion that I think a lot of people have been a little iffy on. It's been good, it's been bad, but it's going to be here in Game 3.
Yeah, and I definitely would consider the takeaway here. Beishuan loves these facilitator champions, dishwasher champions, if you will, and Sejuani fits into that regard, so they are going to take that away. But there are plenty of things to pair up with this Yone that can still make it very effective. Xiaohu has felt very comfortable on it, and this almost limits the ideas that Bilibili can go for now that you've got the Yorick locked in on the top side and you don't have a ton of teamfight damage coming out of your jungle position. It really does kind of point you in a direction, and I think that's a good idea, but looks like it could be the Maokai here as predicted after that Sylas ban.
Yeah, not too surprising to see that one get locked in. I do wonder what the direction that Weibo's going to go in here is now, right? Because you have a couple of picks that you could put into the Yorick, or you can take a nice AD carry that often sees the ban list will be available for light this time around. It's the Varus.
Yeah, I think Varus is the most consistent AD carry in the game. I think that he just offers basically everything you're looking for at the moment, and so to see this prioritized heavily is not surprising, but like we said, you are kind of pigeonholed if you're Bilibili into trying to draft damage elsewhere for probably both Knight and Elk in terms of being able to carry late. It'll just be about what they want to prioritize, and it's going to be the Akali coming in.
It's another melee champ. You know what?
Yep.
That's great. They said, hey, you know what? We just want to enable the Sejuani, make life a little bit easier for Beishuan, and give Knight some power himself. But now Weibo, they are going to have some easy pickings aiming at this bottom lane in the second half of the draft. And BLG, they might have to do some friendly fire because support is still on the table for Weibo. Instead, they'll aim some top laners Breathes way.
A lot of options here left on the board for both of these teams. I think BLG need a lot to round out this comp. Yorick feels a little bit isolated intentionally at the moment. I do like picking the Akali as the complementary partner to the Sejuani, but there are so many things that need to be answered in order for that pick to feel like it's going to be relevant. Right now, there aren't a ton of easy targets for the Akali to even try and get outside of the Varus, obviously, but you know, a ton of peel on that side. So we'll see what ends up happening with Bilibili. The Mbessa and the Jhin are the first two bans coming out here. We'll see if they want to go for the double top lane ban. It would make a lot of sense just to get a lot of those Yorick matchups out. We've seen Nidalee pop up as a decently popular counter pick both here and in the LCK, but it's going to be the Jace, something a little bit easier to pilot as that final ban. You know, a couple of other pretty consistent AD carries. It's the other utility AD carry getting taken out with the Ashe here.
Yeah, really trying to disable BLG's ability to play a 1-3-1, which is what you really want to do when you have Yorick and you have an Akali. So, I mean, we'll see what the other champion is going to be. There's not really any other champion that brings utility like those two that have just been taken off the board. It might just be a default to Xayah to just be a little safer against the Maokai and against the Yone.
I think that there are a couple options here. If you want to go for a late game hyper carry, I think that's doable, and they do with the Sivir. Great wave clear. I think Sivir's very good in a Varus. That's kind of the first thing that I always think of here. And so I do like this pick. I think it actually gives you a little bit more flexibility with your win condition. I agree the 1-3-1 is very strong for Bilibili, but with Yorick on a side lane, you can always use Akali to open up opportunities for the Sedge to enable one of these big AD carries, and I think that's what they're doing here. Sivir's also very safe, so multiple different win cons and avenues, and the Jax is going to be the answer. Saw this earlier today as the split push counter, if you will.
I really wanted that to be locked in. I try not to get baited by hovers. Never supposed to get baited by hovers, but man, I was just like, oh, what if we saw a Vel'Koz, right? If Vel'Koz Varus, that'd be kind of disgusting. There would be a lot of other problems around the map, but one problem they're not going to have is engage. Because Weibo locked in Rel. See what BLG does on the other side. Braum would be pretty good. There's 4 melees on the other side with the Sejuani. Yeah, that's the move. Good pick here by BLG. I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I love BLG's comp. I think that they've set themselves up fantastically. They have multiple different win conditions. You're obviously looking at the 1-3-1 because the Yorick and the Akali are both dangerous there. Sivir splits super quickly and can clear wave very consistently if you need to take away some pressure there. But sneakily, they are actually pretty good in team fights. Now, I will say you're absolutely right. A ton of engage for Weibo, which is what concerns me in terms of the 5v5. I think their team scales well. They have a lot of damage going into the later part of the game, but I'm not sure where they get that tempo early. I'm a little bit concerned that they're not really going to have it anywhere. The Yone shouldn't have it into the Akali, and I don't think Varus is ever going to be able to get any sort of actual tempo or prio into the Sivir. So we'll see. I really like BLG's draft, and you know, we've said it a couple of times, but draft has mattered so much in this series that if it ends up going that way again, if they have all the tools, then hopefully they'll have the mentality to capitalize on it.
A lot of physical damage over on the side of Weibo. A little bit of magic sprinkled in. Jax will do a little bit. Maokai will do a little bit. Yone, every couple auto attacks will do a little bit. We'll see if that will come back to bite them, Kman, as finally we have a game where we like what both teams are doing. Which, honestly, I'm kind of surprised it took so long for us to actually get to this point. But here we are, and it really could be anybody's game. We're going to see what happens on Summoner's Rift. BLG looking to turn things around. Weibo Gaming looking to continue to steamroll the LPL on their way to a top spot.
And we head into game here. Very excited. Bilibili, Weibo. It all comes down to this. Who's going to step up when it matters the most?
This little ward put down there to make sure that there's no funny business around this red buff.
Yeah, just trying to check and see if anything cheeky is happening. I understand with these two comps why that would be a little bit of a concern, but it is just going to be pretty standard starts overall. When talking about the early game and what I really want to prioritize, I definitely need to see Weibo get pressure somewhere. I'm a little bit worried about these individual matchups, especially when the junglers get involved. I don't really know who's going to have that tempo. It's not like what we've seen with some of the other games where you're balancing out some of these laning phases. I like Bilibili in terms of the individual matchups. If you are going to look at that isolated, I think where Weibo can really start to generate some advantages is if we see that tempo increase early through the Maokai and specifically through the Rel. We'll see what happens in the 2v2 though. That'll determine a lot.
Herald's already been tagged. One more auto attack. We'll get the stun down, so it's going to be good damage from Elk and On. To move out below half HP as Elk wants a little bit more too. Solid trade for BLG to kick things off. And we talk about the lanes straight up might favor BLG a little bit, but once it comes to like ganks and things like that, I mean, Breathe has CC. Xiaohu, once he hits level 6, is going to have his ultimate. I mean, there's more CC out of Weibo Gaming solo laners than BLG's, and that could end up being a big difference maker later on in this game.
Completely agree. I think that that's going to be Weibo's big win condition. Their focus throughout a lot of this is that they have a very strong engage comp. They have a lot of ways to you know, really facilitate either front to back or more chaotic fights if they want to go for it, picks as well if they need to in the mid game if anybody oversteps. And I think BLG's win condition is a little bit more finicky than that, even if I do think that mechanically speaking they have the talent to pull it off. And, you know, from an optimal perspective, I think they're in an okay spot. I think it's fair to say that playing around Yorick Akali is going to be a bit more difficult than just playing around, you know, a Maokai Rel engage followed up by Yone, Jackson, Varus. So really going to need to see that execution come in from BLG, but we wanted a test for them, and this is exactly the comp to test where they're at now.
The junglers up near the top side now. It's going to be Beishwan starting up that red buff before Tian is able to get that blue. Just a slight step ahead. Bree was able to ward though, so it doesn't look like we'll see too much of a play unless Vin gets a little over-aggressive. So a little over-aggressive down the bottom lane. Herald almost getting tagged by that Winter's Bite, would have stunned him up, had a little bit more damage, but nothing doing there. Knight continues to just put damage into Xiaohu. It is a tough matchup to kick things off for the Yone, but does get better as the game goes on.
Yeah, I think this is an okay matchup for Yone. I certainly think it's Akali favored in terms of who's going to have the tempo early, but Yone should be able to survive this, and the moment we start hitting a lot of those mid-game skirmishes, I think he's going to be more useful, as you mentioned earlier. The problem is mostly just going to be right now, and that's really only going to be a problem if Beishwan ends up being really aggressive, but we do see Crabs traded. Knight potentially looking for just some vision here on Tian, and he is able to grab that, but I don't imagine that this Game 3 is going to be quite as chaotic as maybe what we saw in Games 1 or 2. These comps aren't really all that difficult to execute on in the early game unless we see some major positioning errors. It's going to be pretty difficult for either of these teams to really make any gigantic plays, and right now it just looks like everything is going to be a bit more standard, even with Xiaohu kind of taken down in the mid lane here.
30 seconds till this dragon is up. Both junglers on the bottom side of the map. It means Grubs in about 1 minute and 30 seconds, and Grubs would be excellent for Weibo. Jax and Yone, two champions that are very, very happy to have Grubs. I would imagine they'll try to put some sort of priority on that. Will be a little bit difficult though, as Bin for right now has control. We're starting to see backs coming through for the BLG bot lane. Meanwhile, Herald already went back and is deploying on mid.
Yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. You want to prioritize Grubs. You mentioned for Weibo. Oh, Xiaohu getting very low. Going to be there to salvage some of it for him, but you mentioned this being important for Weibo. This is really important for BLG as well, in my opinion, with the Yorick and the Akali to really facilitate that win condition. I just would expect both of these teams to put a big priority, a big premium on these Void Grubs, and we can see that with their pathing here.
Elk went back to the bottom lane here. We're seeing Light head to the mid lane. It looks like they'll send Xiaohu bottom on a teleport into Elk. It's like a bit of a mismatch potentially. Well, we'll see how negatively it affects BLG. This teleport is coming in. Knight will be able to hit to the mid lane. Beishwan up top, scaring off Breathe a little bit as we wait for the grub spot.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting decision made here by Bilibili to keep Elk in the bot lane. I understand that they feel he's probably less effective than maybe the, you know, the Akali would be, or, you know, if you wanted Yorick down there, then maybe even the Yorick would be in this fight, but definitely something we don't see often as we see Knight hitting level 6.
Wave Flare's a little bit worse. That's pretty big. Is they wait, the heal is burnt, or the Maokai poking his head out. Meanwhile, Beishwan is able to just take these grubs seemingly for free, and that means that Weibo will head down to this dragon and trade out the Hex.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised to see this trade be taken by Weibo. I do think this favors Bilibili in terms of how these comps are structured, because I think both of them really like the grubs. You already mentioned Jackson Yone, we mentioned the Yorick and the Akali, but really being able to establish that side pressure is going to dictate a lot of the tempo of the mid game here, who's going to have the push, who's going to be able to rotate to a lot of these plays faster, and right now I think that that's a good spot. Knight, though, playing really aggressive.
Okay, stun is out. They're going to look for Tian, and they're going to get him. It's going to be first blood for Knight and BLG.
Didn't expect that. I knew that BLG could look to play really aggressive here, but Weibo just allowing it to happen. Tian taking a very aggressive route, and you know they're going to be able to pick up a lot for it here. We do see the arrow coming in, looking to steal that Raptor, but Beishwan hitting level 6 definitely makes it a bit scarier. It's a nice first blood going to Knight, and I think that opens up the map a bit more. We see some trading coming down, but overall I don't think it changes too much. I'm still in favor of Bilibili on that exchange with the Void Grubs being taken.
One thing that's interesting to note is that's the second time now that Tian has gotten very aggressive, needlessly aggressive, against BLG. He got punished for it badly in Game 1. Let's see if the punishment is nearly as bad here in Game 2. Knight up a couple hundred gold is nothing special right now, but as everybody who's played League of Legends knows, you give an Akali a kill, she's going to take it a long way. Full push master Bin up top here, looking to pick up 2 plates for himself, just like a Thanksgiving dinner. Xiaohu just here to match.
Yeah, and we've mentioned the split push potential, obviously, of Yorick and Akali, because on paper that's a very clear thing to say, but we haven't talked about the players behind those champions. Bin has been a little bit inconsistent in side lanes here, as we see a really nice trade for Knight down on the bot side, but Bin's gonna be really important in this game on the Yorick. This is a guy who has died consistently in side lanes throughout basically the entire split up until this point. And when you're talking about a team prioritizing grubs, prioritizing, you know, a 1-3-1 comp if you want to go for it, you've got to be able to make that work, and you've got to be able to know your timers on the top side of the map. Bin is going to be a pretty key figure. We see Breathe full engage.
Here we go. Knight's going to get stunned, but Breathe can't see him. Execution gets the job done. Finishing him off with the Q. It's a solo bolo for the golden left hand.
Absolutely gorgeous from Knight. Played about as well as you could possibly ask. This Akali is getting dangerous very quickly, and especially with those grubs starting to generate, you cannot be safe on this map because the smallest push could create problems. Beishuan here on the top side. It will be seen on the ward, though.
I'll be able to clear that one out. Teleport to the bottom side as Breathe is going to spawn after licking his wounds, head immediately back down. Knight said, I'm ready for round 2. He's got a Kindle Gem. He's got those Sorcerer's Shoes fully completed. Already seeing a couple of Null Magic Mantles come out on the other side. So that'll be nice. Here's a replay. Knight just sees the opportunity and takes it.
It's actually Breathe who initiates this and wants to go for it. Obviously, I'm not surprised, but just a little bit over-eager. We've seen Breathe get a little bit greedy at times throughout this split, and it's just so well played by Knight. The flash is just not on time from the Jax, and the damage comes through, and that's 2 kills over to the Akali now. We see Void Grubs, the second spawning in 30 seconds coming up on the top side of the map. Dragon not for a minute and a half. Those 3 Void Grubs are really going to tell us a lot about how the rest of this mid-game is going to go. If BLG can somehow, some way get 5 or 6 of those Void Grubs, that's going to be massive for them. I think Weibo needs to deny those at all cost.
The jungler's on the bottom side. Knight's teleport's going to be up shortly. Meanwhile, Breathe is on a long cooldown. Certainly favors BLG. There's going to be a bit of a scrap for it. BLG up about 1,500 gold, give or take. Already seeing Era get some deep vision down into the BLG jungle, trying to do what he can. This one's showing up mid lane here. Maybe he wants to make a play on the Light. He's going to go forward, and Light will flash. That is a key cooldown down.
That is last second. That was about as final frame as you can get from Light on that flash, but he does get out of there. Beishuan utilizing that to establish pressure onto the Void Grubs here, but we're seeing Bin continue to just assert dominance in the lane that he's in. We talked about Knight getting a ton of gold in the early game. Bin's lead is just as large, just off of CS, and so solo laner is definitely putting in work for BLG, but we could potentially see an engage here over Grubs.
They're trying to clear out some wards. Tian is here. Light is bringing up the rear, but he's actually just staying in mid lane here. Tian and Herald maybe looking for a steal of 1. This effort looks futile. Tian wants a little bit more. Xiaohu coming on the way down here. On down to about half HP. Light is now here. Knockup coming through onto 2 members. That'll just be enough to escort BLG out of there. Beishuan is going to tank up the roots. We're not going to be able to get anything. Teleport coming on the backside. This could be risky. Knight is going to land in the middle of 3. Get a lot of damage in. Not getting close to the turret, though. Has to try and stay alive. He will deal some good damage, but not get all too much for that. Trading teleports has been led to the bottom side, but overall successful for BLG.
Yeah, a bit of an ambitious teleport from Knight, but at the end of the day, it's still... Yeah, it's still a big plus for BLG. They're definitely still winning in this scenario. 6 Void Grubs uncontested, really, coming in from them. The Maokai popping ultimate significantly after the exchange. Sejuani can very easily just tank that up. You don't have to worry about it too much. And now The gold lead might not look extreme. It's a 1.5k gold lead for BLG, but 6 grubs with this comp is a very big lead, and especially with that gold being on Yorick and Akali, things are starting to become a little bit worrisome for Weibo. I think when you're thinking about ways they can get back into this, they're going to need to probably just hope they can scale up. Again, these 5v5s might favor them because BLG's not really built for it, but we could also see some side lane action.
From that bottom side, BLG took Dragon, splitting them at 1 apiece. Yeah, Kman, I think a lot of this is going to be Weibo Gaming utilizing their CC very well in skirmishes to try to get their way back into the game. I think Breathe and Tian can kill pretty much anybody on BLG. I think that Xiaohu and Tian can do that too. It's just a matter of actually making these two-man plays. We haven't seen Tian really do anything aside from get caught out and drop down the grasping roots and not really do anything.
Yeah, I just think it's very difficult for Weibo to find those fights as long as BLG isn't running into them. They have so many ways to protect their not only side lane pushers, but their backline carries. Knight is very difficult to catch. You're not really going to be able to, you know, catch out Yorick or Sejuani or Braum. That really just leaves Sivir, and as long as Elk is playing at least a little bit respectfully, it's just difficult to find those engages in these exchanges, which, you know, kind of really delays the game and allows BLG the tempo that they want here. But again, for Weibo, I think they just need to find one. This gold lead certainly hasn't ballooned to the point where they're gone just yet. They just need to stay active, and they need to make sure that they start establishing vision. We see some of these objectives not spawning for a little while. Utilize your prio and your vision here to make sure that you know where everybody is on the map at all times, and then perhaps you can stumble into BLG overextending, which they do pretty frequently.
Xiaohu doing well to farm up and try to keep this gold lead, gold deficit close. Tian not able to land the Bramble Smash to keep on the core side of the map for him. Bin and Breathe continue to just kind of look at each other a little funny. And remember, Bin opening up that early lead for getting a couple of plates early on. Just kind of chilling out, waiting until he can hit some items and be the Omega split push threat we know York.
Next major objective is going to be that Rift Herald in about 1.5 minutes. Obviously would be great for BLG to pick up. I would be worrisome as Weibo that he would be walking into a rough fight if that were to go down, but with proper setup, I think that there is a chance that that could be the fight they're looking for to bring something back if BLG end up committing a little bit too much towards it. But with dragons at 1 apiece, you're not really too worried about fighting over those. You don't really need to risk the game on that. So it's really just going to be about when Weibo want to pull the trigger, or whether or not BLG end up giving them that opportunity for free. But when we talked about draft, we talked about this ability for both of these comps to scale. It was the mid game that I specifically favored Bilibili in, and I do think that's where they are at their best right now. You have champions like Sivir that make it very difficult to collapse and make any sort of proactive plays because of the split push, and with Knight having so much gold and Yorick being so far ahead, again, it's just a difficult to collapse coming in from Weibo. Looking at where they're putting their priority, a lot of vision on the, not really a lot of vision at all, quite actually, for Weibo, and they're going to need to establish that, but we'll see where they want to put that pressure now.
BLG was able to clear out a lot of that vision that was housed in their topside jungle. 13 seconds until the Herald spawns. If you're Weibo Gaming, you really can't give this away. It would be a 6-grub Herald. Meanwhile, Bin on the bottom side is going to knock down that first turret. We're going to see a little bit of a scrap here. On potentially caught out, but he's going to put up the shield. Not take that much damage. Meanwhile, on the backside, Elk is alone. Is driven off back to the mid lane. Bit of a sketchy spot for Weibo to be in, but Elk is the weak side of the pincer. Won't be able to do too much there. BLG look to advance. They really want to clear out this pink board. Meanwhile, the Rift Herald has been started. Wave shoved topside as Knight will join the team. Erha lying in wait. Elk still trying to link up. He's on a ward.
Xiaohu's not here yet.
This is, I mean, Weibo Gaming, they have to pull the trigger at some point soon. Here comes the teleport coming in. Tian wants to go in. Erha's engage got stopped. His Herald is getting very low. They're going to turn on it and take it down. Now has the fight going to shake out. Erha gets engaged on. He's going to go down. Knight trying to get onto Tian. Tian's got to get away. Fate Sealed landing. Doing big damage from Xiaohu. Breathe's got to flash away, but Knight wants a little bit more. Tian trying to get onto Bin. Bin below half HP. He's got to flash away, but he's going to fall, and Elk gets knocked down too. Bilibili get the Herald. No, yes, they do. They get the Herald, but Weibo Gaming, they take the fight. 4 kills for him.
And that's exactly what we said needed to happen for Weibo. They needed some way to force BLG to overextend and take a fight that wasn't perfectly in their favor. That's what we were at in that Rift Herald fight. We can see that a lot of attention was split here from BLG. The moment the Maokai ult comes down, Beixuan is fully committed to taking down this Rift Herald, whereas Knight and On are full committing once Bin gets here. It means that there is so much space open, and with the flash forward from Beixuan, Era goes down, but that's a lot of resources used to take down a support on the other side. And you want to talk about gorgeous game-changing ultimates? Xiaohu with a gorgeous game-changing ult on the Yone there to completely change the complexion here. Not only are they able to pick up this fight, we can see in picture-in-picture, they're able to pick up the Dragon as well, start stacking those up. I know it's a little bit delayed, but definitely could still be a win condition, and all of a sudden, a game that looked pretty in favor of BLG is a lot more even than we thought.
All that Rift Herald is going to get dropped in the mid lane. Nobody's going to ride it in, though, so we're not going to see Twitch chat show up in this game. This Herald will just be used to get mid control. But remember what we said earlier, Kman, about how BLG is that guy that goes out and has one too many drinks, one too many fights. They could have just walked up top lane and just said, we don't want any part of this fight. We will take the Herald and we will go. And they chose not to, and they did get punished for it. Now, taking stock, Weibo did manage to take out a dragon, their second dragon of the game, third dragon overall. BLG certainly eyeing up this turret to give all that gold over to Knight. Xiaohu is not going to be able to trade on the bottom side, at least for now. With Tian there, maybe he will.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be able to pick it up, but the gold has definitely gotten a lot closer, and a lot of that is deceptively on Light, and I think that that's going to be a big turning point. This Varus is going to be a little bit scary to deal with, but a fight breaking out, teleport.
Tian's got to try to get out of there. One more auto attack will mark him and kill him. Stroll trying to get away. This slows him up. Knight does not land his E, but he will be able to find a way in and find the kill anyway. BLG get the pick.
Proactive move by BLG, but an overextension by Weibo, and there could be more.
Beixuan just wanted his proc, but maybe they want to get more. Elk
Xiaohu
definitely dodging out there. Xiaohu's going to have to snap back. Tagged up here is Light, stunned with the Fade Shield coming down, able to get the kill. Elk with a good spell shield, but now he's stuck. I don't think he's going to be able to trade with Erha either. And down goes BLG, a double kill for Xiaohu. He's big.
This has been a massive Yone game from Xiaohu. He is controlling everything, doing everything that Weibo needs him to do right now. It's just incredibly fun to watch. We're going to get a little bit of a replay here of just what exactly happened. A little bit of an errant Beixuan ultimate there, but
he forced the flash out of Light.
He did, which is important, and that obviously ended up really mattering, but this is a game that's fully been pulled back for Weibo, and when we talked about their win condition, we talked about the split push ability for Bilibili Gaming. They have so much engage, and guess what? They had a ton of engage here. Era followed up by Xiaohu, the two-man engage duo here as they time it perfectly. A lot of damage coming out from this Yone, and Light, while he is in a bit of danger throughout a lot of this fight, is still putting down a ton of damage with that Varus. I believe at 2 items at this point, and Xiaohu is more than enough to be able to clean it up. It's the perfect fight for Weibo. It's back-to-back great fights from them, and all of a sudden, that lead that Bilibili had has disappeared, and we've got ourselves a game here.
And again, I mean, Xiaohu was on a ward at the Krugs, and they knew Light was there from when he was throwing Qs. I mean, I don't know why BLG are fighting over this red buff after they've already taken it. They can just leave. They don't know they can just leave. Elk with a good spell shield. So Xiaohu will have to snap back. They're going to get the Maokai ult out as well. Look at that. They left.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be too greedy, cough, cough, but I do understand why they want to play aggressive. I do think they scale well, but so does Weibo. I think that their 5v5 in the back half of the game is probably more consistent. I think there is at least a little bit of pressure for BLG to feel like they have to go now. The problem is I think they're just doing it in all the wrong areas. You don't need to be taking these big skirmish fights throughout the jungle. You need to be trying to play through waves and picking up macro advantages, which has been tough. But BLG now starting on Otacon.
Okay, this Otacon getting ripped here. See if BLG are going to be able to secure it.
Xiaohu won't be here.
7,000 HP, and nobody's going to be around. I think Weibo have decided we were a little bit too out of position for that one. BLG going to get this Otacon, going to get the false life buff. Now let's see them put it to work. Weibo thought they wanted to stick on this turret for a little bit longer, electing not to. 45 seconds until this dragon is up. We'll see if they want to try to put themselves in soul pool.
Yeah, it's just good tempo from BLG. They understand that Weibo's going to be trying to corral themselves and pick back up in terms of vision, but Knight overextended.
Right, Shuriken flip means that he'll be able to get out of there. Yep, very, very difficult to catch Kali. As they still haven't managed to, but guess what? Knight doing what he can to grow his lead. Xiaohu has been all over the map, making plays. He's got the minion over it right now. Knight needs to find a way to use his lead and dig deep and step up and try to put Weibo away.
Yeah, I think Knight is definitely a player to watch, but for me, the key player for Bilibili from this point in the game onwards is Ben on this Yorick. He needs to start really becoming a problem in that side lane. If he can start creating these big macro disadvantages for Weibo, could be a little bit worse. Knight gonna Akali himself out once again, but if this Yorick continues to be answered pretty effortlessly by the Jax, this pick ends up being a little bit less useful than you would want, and the entire purpose of picking that Yorick is to create those disadvantages, and so it's going to be up to him, in my opinion, to really separate this Bilibili comp moving forward, because I'm not sure that BLG staring down the barrel of a 4v4 or 5v5 are in a great spot.
Second dragon for BLG, fourth dragon overall. Kman, buckle up. This could be a long ride. 23.5 minutes into the game. 700 gold lead for BLG, give or take. Bin, Beishuan, and On the bottom side, met by Erha, Tian. Reed taking his back. Just waiting for the next wave to come in, see if Weibo can defend it. Good interrupt on the recall there. It wants Reed to really stick around here. I have 4 guys down here, but here comes Xiaohu and Light. They are really going to force this false life buff to try to take a bottom tier 2. This is a smart move from BLG.
Yeah, this is the utilization of resources they needed to show throughout a lot of the beginning part of this game, understanding exactly where they have their strengths and where they can get away with things and utilizing that to further their lead rather than trying to play towards a win condition that isn't theirs. It's nice to see them, recognize exactly where they are in the game and kind of push for that. But once again, it's about opening up the map. I think taking that tier 2 is a big problem for Weibo because you give Yorick an inch, he's going to take a mile, and you can even do the same thing with, Akali or Sivir in the right circumstance if you pull enough attention. At this point, it's going to be about playing the map for BLG, and it's going to be about capitalizing on BLG not doing that if you're Weibo.
Big shout out to Bin. He's done pretty well in this game to not get picked off in the side lane. Doesn't feel like Weibo has given him too many looks, but hey, listen, you'll take it all the same. He is, been a minor thorn in the side, looking to become a big issue and just grind it down Weibo. 25 minutes into the game, Baron up in just a couple of seconds. Whew, this is going to be an interesting one. BLG and Weibo playing this very, very carefully. A complete departure from games 1 and 2 came out.
Yeah, they do not want to make any mistakes. We talked about this earlier, but game 3s are always so much more tense here in the LPL. Nobody wants to be the one to define how a team loses a series, but that goal deficit is basically non-existent. Those Dragons 2 apiece. We're not seeing a win condition soon for either of these two teams. I think the 6 Grubs are going to be a difference maker, though. We're just going to have to see if BLG can put it to use. Baron has spawned. Dragon is up in 3 minutes, and so it's going to be the dance now. We're going to be starting to tango around this pit. Be seeing some aggressiveness coming in from Beishuan, but Era not really catchable on that rel. Very easy escape. It is actually Xiaohu right now catching the Yorick wave on the bottom side. He does have teleport available, but it means if BLG were to force an issue, the Yone would not be here as of now.
The BLG special fighting over buffs. This time they will secure it and walk out without too much of a problem. All summoners are up, by the way, Kman. So we might not even see anything crazy coming out from a potential pick. We're just going to see, we burnt a flash here, maybe a cleanse there. Or this just means that the next fight that we're going to have is just going to be so explosive, right? Everybody's going to be flashing and dashing around and causing a lot of problems. That could be still a little ways off. 2 minutes till this Dragon now is BLG establishing mid-control here, still putting a big point on clearing out this vision on the top side.
BLG do not want to allow Weibo the opportunity to have priority around this pit. They want to be able to control the Baron here and force Weibo to make a decision whether or not that's to contest or give up pressure to the Yorick. The longer this dance goes on, the better it is for Bilibili, and I think they understand that, and so they are just going to try and secure it for as long as possible. Eventually, something does have to give. It is going to be the vision clearing out now for Weibo with Yorick on the back and making his way here to the pit, but that could signal that BLG want to be a bit more aggressive moving forward as we start to get a little bit of a group here.
Bin finished his third item. It's a Randuin's Omen. This was a really smart pickup from him. It's going to be very difficult to actually kill him with the members on Weibo, especially in straight-up 1v1s. So he is going to become even more of a problem over this next minute in time. Perhaps they send multiple members down and BLG rips a Baron. Perhaps they play closer to him and go for this dragon. Honestly, it's anyone's guess at this point, Kman.
Yeah, I think both teams, again, they're just scared of making this mistake. I understand that BLG want to give time for the Yorick, and I do believe that the dance benefits them, but for Weibo, you've got to make a decision soon. I do think that eventually you're just going to start giving more free resources over to BLG, and then all of a sudden, the fights that you have been winning become a little bit more contentious if Knight starts out, you know, getting a really nice pick onto Light or onto, you know, Xiaohu. All of a sudden, things become a lot more interesting if you give that Akali more gold and more waves to catch. But right now, Xiaohu has a pretty big lead. You want to capitalize on that. It's just difficult because it's hard to get in there. We see some pings coming down onto Dragon, though, from BLG. Maybe Weibo taking my advice and stepping up here, though.
It looks like Bin might be the one to just start this up and take it down himself. I don't know if they'll send anybody else. I don't think they need to. I think if BLG just control this mid wave, Bin should be able to take this dragon uncontested. So long as they don't get engaged on, sure, you'll trade some vision for it. That'll be fine. The problem is, it takes a little while to get done. The Scrying Orb was used, so Weibo going to play much more aggressively on this top side here. Sending multiple members over. The ping's already going down. They did send Beishuan to help out.
Xiaohu
on takes a little bit of damage, but nothing more. It's down to about half HP as BLG will regroup.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great play by BLG. They understand that if this, you know, tempo goes a little bit slower, that they have more resources to be able to throw at a lot of these objectives.
Sejuani all goes wide.
Yeah.
Still might look for Tian. He's got 2 stacks of the permafrost, nothing more. This one going to clear out this ward. Breathe hopping in, but again, still nothing. The team's just jockeying for position here. Breathe. Not going to land that counter-strike. Hopped in just a second too late.
Brom's not here, so that should let BLG back off a little bit. It's going to give Weibo a bit more
here we go. He's going to pop the ultimate mid.
It.
All right, Elk trying to get in front. He will block the spell shield. He's got to try to get away. Health bar's going down as Bin gets engaged on. He's ignited, but he lives. Knight wants to get in. Breathe this gold in the middle of the team. Xiaohu dies on the backside. Breathe this tag with permafrost, and he is stunned, and he is down. A double kill for Knight. Pings onto the Baron for BLG.
They put everything into Yorick. The Randuin's Yorick ends up paying off so much, and he ends up surviving in the fight as well. It gives so much time for Knight to be able to dive the backline and completely blow up the damage dealers, most notably Xiaohu on the side of Weibo, who's never really able to actually get in that fight, and it makes it so much more difficult. Elk is just free hitting on the backline, and that's not only a team fight win, that's Baron going over to BLG. 6 Grub Baron Yorick now exists in this game, and all of a sudden things have swung back. The pendulum has pushed back in favor of BLG, exactly what they needed here.
Yeah, and Bin gets top tier 2 as well. It's a 5,000 gold lead for BLG. We were saying it in game 2. They might be back, baby. It took a little bit of time. Take a look at this replay. Again, as you said, they put everything in Bin.
Yeah, they wanted to try to get onto Elk, but with the cleanse, it's just not possible. And so they had to go for Bin. Xiaohu getting his full ult off on the Yorick, but that's what the Randuin's is for. He's not going to be able to, you know, be taken down that easily. Knight gets a free cleanup onto the Yone, and that's almost all of the damage taken down for Weibo Gaming. It's really not the fight they were looking for. I get the urgency of wanting to go for it, but I really want to credit BLG because they never felt pressured. They never felt rushed in that exchange to make something happen. They understood that they had the map state with, you know, all of the waves pushing, with Sivir having that push, with Yorick being able to control the side lane, to be able to wait that out and force Weibo to make a mistake, and that's exactly what they did.
Calm, cool, and collected, Kman. As Beishuan knows better than anybody the win conditions that his team can present. Played to them excellently there, just being patient, not looking for anything too crazy on this Sejuani. Sometimes wayward engages happen, and that's where things go wrong. Speaking of which, they're going to land the knock-up. They're going to CC lock him down, but Light stays alive, but he's forced to flash away. Here come the Roots, but guess who goes down? It's Erha. You got some health bars, but that's about it. Knight ready to go in. Tian will fall. Xiaohu fate sealed. He's going to snap back, but Knight killed your 80 carry, and Knight's killing some more. He's got a triple kill. The golden left hand of the LPL, and Elk with the ace on top of it. Kman, BLG are so back, baby!
We are We're back. Bilibili Gaming is here. This is the World Finals difference. They step up when it matters the most. They win the crucial fights, and they're taking the series.
A fantastic end. BLG, calm, cool, collected victors. Snappy play, creative ultimate, creative line out of On there with a big knock up on the light to kick things off. What a play.
Boy, did they need that. They didn't need a victory. They needed to show that they could compete with the best. Weibo showed up in this game. Xiaohu had a fantastic game on Yone. They did a great job of establishing pressure. BLG just played better. They understood their win condition. They understood that they drafted the Sivir and the Yorick to make sure that those lanes were pushing. They didn't get greedy. They didn't take those fights that they weren't supposed to. They stayed calm, cool, and collected, and they walk out with a win because of it.
Big dubs for BLG. Up to 5-5 now. Extinguishing the hot streak of Weibo.